listeners and tell people what they can do, and then we'll go on to introductions.
Just 1 second here, I was muted. Okay. Welcome, everyone. So if you want to raise your hand, you can use this little button at the bottom. And after you do so, I'll promote you to a panelist if you want to talk with us. Other than that, for people who are going to stay just watching the event, we have a chat button down here and questions and answers. So you can type those questions in anytime throughout the call, and then use the chat. You can chat with just the panelists or panelists and everyone. And feel free to hit us up with any questions.
Okay, so we have our little tradition of how people introduce themselves. So Mandy, I'm gonna have you do a rerun from a couple weeks. Oh gosh, is it a month ago now? Wow. Maybe the abridged version of the story. But so we start with what state you're in, what you're drinking, how long you've had dry eye, and why, if you know, where you're at now in the journey, and what eye drops you used last.
Okay, sorry, it looks like the sun. I'm trying to get the sun not on my screen because I wanted to sit outside today, but apparently the sun's at a bad angle right now. Anyway, here, just let me move myself. Does it look like crazy? This might be better. Okay. So I live in Madison, Wisconsin. I am drinking a local beer. I think I'm the only one that drinks alcohol ever on these. It's a hazy hopalicious, and it's from a local brewery called Ale Asylum. It's delicious. It's a summer special beer. They have a hopalicious that's all the time. Anyway, so next question is, how long have I had dry eye? I've had dry eye since I muted myself accidentally, sorry. So I've had dry eye since I was 19. We don't have any idea what the cause is. Some of the doctors think that it could be autoimmune since it was very aqueous deficient from the start. But as time has progressed over the last 24 years, it is now also MGD. I also have MGD as a result of all the inflammation. So where I am in my dry eye journey, it's always a daily struggle, but I've kind of learned to just deal with it and accept that it is part of my life and who I am. And I have made changes, whereas I don't put makeup on anymore. Instead, I spend my time in the morning doing warm compresses, which is really fun. Anyway, I do what I can to surround myself with people I enjoy, the things I love to do, and I'm also human, and so I have some bad days, and I just let myself wallow on those days, and then try to jump right back into life on the next day. I just used Retain HPMC. This is different than what I used last time. I like this one. It's a bit like Refresh Soluvisc, except it doesn't leave as much of the crusty stuff on my eyelids. Like I get that flaky stuff with the Refresh Soluvisc. I try to just use that at night. This provides a little more thickness than Refresh Plus, which is what I alternate between, essentially. So,
how do you like that bottle?
Love it. Oh, I forgot. Good prompt, Rebecca. So I was going to say that it is a preservative-free for 90-day bottle. So you don't have to use all the little vials and create all of this environmental hazard by throwing them all away. And this doesn't last for 90 days for me, but it's nice to just have one thing that you can use. So
I think that's like the only one in the US in that style, right? I mean, there's several preservative-free bottles.
Yep, I think so. Well, you would know better, but yeah.
Just curious how it compares. I've actually never used that one, but
I like it.
One of the things I hear a lot about with the other preservative-free bottles is just that they're stiff, and so some people have squeezing them.
This one is not that stiff. I don't have arthritis yet in my hands, but I just turned 43 yesterday. And my mom said hers started when she was about 43. So my hands are a lot like my mother's. So maybe it'll set in and then I'll have more trouble with the bottles. But as for now, it's okay.
Okay. For me, briefly, so I'm at Washington State. I'm drinking tea and I'm feeling really grumpy because I really wanted coffee and I went over to the coffee machine and we were out and Staples was supposed to bring more today and they didn't. And actually what I really want is alcohol, but I can't remember to take an Uber to work to do that on one of these things. And I've had dry eye for about 20 years since LASIK. And I'm, kind of ups and downs and all over the place, generally pretty stable, but my eye journey is kind of driven by vision right now. And what eye drops did I use last? I just avoid drops. I just tend to hate drops these days. I wear scleral lenses and I douse them with saline now and then, but I think probably the most recent one I used was some Oasis Tears Plus. Aiden, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Aiden. I'm also in Falco, Washington, as I say, right across the wall from Rebecca. I don't personally have dry eye, but I've worked with people with dry eye for a while now. So I guess I have some experience with that for what it's worth, and still haven't used drops since before the first happy hour. I threw out my bottle of Refresh Relieve It and got some individual vials because I don't want to keep throwing stuff out. All right. And I also see Catherine is raising her hand. I can promote you if you want to kind of join the panel. I guess I'll do that and you can always decline.
Anybody else that wants to join the conversation? Gonna start heading into our questions pretty soon. Hi, Catherine.
Hi, all of you. Hi, I switched my raised hand to a Q&A, which was to ask Amanda the name of the product she was talking about, because I missed the beginning name when I saw her drinking her beer. I went and got a glass of wine. So and also
Cheers.
I spent many years in Madison, Amanda. But
you did?
Not
what for?
For college and law school both.
Oh, nice.
But anyway,
did you see this?
It's a good glass. Good glass.
My
but
aunt
I
and
missed
uncle
the
got
name of the product you were talking about. It sounded
okay. So it's Retain,
Mhm.
and it's called Retain HPMC by Ocusoft.
Did
So
you get it only from Rebecca, or is it sold elsewhere than the dry eye shop?
I got it on
lots of places.
I got it on Amazon. Sorry, Rebecca.
Okay, no, it just sounded good.
No guilt here. But
Okay.
I do the Smile though, and each purchase I make sends money to the Dry Eye Foundation.
Right.
So you should all do that.
Thank you.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Catherine, would you like to be part of our?
Sure. I think I got this email invite because I've bought products from the dry eye shop that I couldn't find anywhere else, including Amazon. So thank you for carrying some of them. But I've had multiple, I guess my dry eye, I didn't know dry eye was my problem or one of my problems. My real problem is corneal dystrophy. So I've had a transplant in the left eye decades ago that it was perfect. I mean, it just couldn't have been better. But then the right eye has been endless problems with multiple transplants. And I now wear a PROS lens in the right eye. So I get some of my supplies from you. And it works reasonably well, but when I'm not wearing it, that eye is both uncomfortable and I think it experiences more dryness because it's not getting the solution that's in the PROS lens when I'm wearing the PROS lens, if that makes any sense. So it vacillates between being okay and being not okay at all. And I thought, I don't really have a collection of solutions, or not literal solutions, of answers of what to do with the right eye when the PROS lens isn't in and it's dry, whether it should be compresses or a particular type of drop. I don't find that Refresh Plus, for example, the individual vials, I buy those, but I don't actually find they're helpful for more than like minute that I'm putting the drop in, and then that's sort of the end of it being useful. So I thought I'd join you all and see what you do for dry eyes.
All right. Well, thanks for joining. Yeah, today we're going to be talking mostly about kind of causes of dry eye and how that plays into our choices of what we do
Right.
for it.
Wait, Catherine, where do you live? Where do you live?
All over, right? I'm in Jackson, Wyoming right now, but I'm just here because my son is here. I'm primarily either in Washington, D.C. or in Florida in the winter, but I haven't decided when I'm going back to Florida this winter. It's a little safer here in Wyoming right now, or it seems like it is.
So I just looked up Jackson, Wyoming, and the humidity is 20%.
It's fabulous in the summer. It's totally fabulous because it's dry, it's not humid, but it gets up to 75 or 80 and sunny during the day. It drops down about 40 degrees overnight. The morning dog walk is maybe 42 degrees, brisk and really nice. And then the day's fabulous again. I mean, there is not a better place to spend the summer.
I would have thought that humidity level would be really hard on your eyes. A lot of us have
Maybe it is, although it's also, I mean, my hair looks awful, but it's not all frizzy the way it would be in Washington or Florida because we have no humidity here in Jackson. So there are pluses and minuses.
So with the pros, maybe that helps with the humidity.
Yeah,
like for me, I can't wear scleral lenses, so the humidity level really impacts how my eyes feel. So Madison today, humid, which is why I'm outside.
So that's good. I mean, that's a question. That's good. Humidity is a good thing for you for yours.
Yeah. When we go to Costa Rica or anywhere south, I absolutely love it for my eyes.
Huh. Okay.
I've worn scleral lenses for 15 years now, and I wore pros for a long time too, Catherine, in both eyes. And I don't notice the humidity levels as much when the lenses are in, but when I've had them in for quite a while, the dryness really does matter in terms of just comfort level with the lenses and what I need to do.
But then I go through the hassle, but I'm fairly fast at it now. Take out the pros lens and refill it and put it in again filled with solution again.
Okay, so it looks like we've got somebody else who wants to join too. Is that right?
Yeah, Phyllis, she just messaged, but I will do that and let her introduce herself. Sounds like we may or may not have video, but that's okay.
Okay, so we'll have Phyllis introduce herself, and then after that, we'll get started with our kind of topic and questions. Hi, Phyllis.
Hi, how are you today?
Doing good. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing okay. I'm in San Diego, and what am I drinking? Well, it's a little too early for wine, so I'm still on water. And gosh, my eye journey. I started wearing contact lenses in 1963 when I was 13 years old. And it wasn't called dry eye back then, but I did notice that my eyes would be dry. And I think back in the day, Visine was like about the only thing. There were no soft lenses, so there really wasn't much saline or, I think there were like 2 or 3 products on the eye shelf. And I discovered very early that I do not do well with preservatives. So finally found some preservative-free solutions. And later on, as the market started developing, I probably tried any and every preservative-free artificial tear that ever came out. And my ophthalmologists were always giving me samples of new things. Here, try this, da 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 da. Fast forward, I developed early cataracts, and my eye surgeon at the time said, please wait. The surgical techniques are improving and the implanted ocular lenses are improving. So I continued to struggle with developing cataracts and more dry eye. And then in 2006, I had cataract surgeries, both sides, implanted ocular lenses that are fantastic, and some LASIK to touch up my astigmatism. After that, I seriously started struggling with dry eye. So again, trying out every new preservative-free item that came on the market. And I finally discovered Refresh Plus in the vials, the preservative-free. And I agree with Amanda, I don't like putting all this plastic into the environment. But it worked really, really well for me. I've lived at 9,000 feet in the mountains of Colorado. I've lived in the desert in Arizona, traveled around the world a lot, and always, you know, kind of chatting with people. Do you know anything that works really well? And I've heard lots of different ideas. And then in 2014, an existing skull-based tumor reappeared, and I had a second surgery. And at that time, they left me with permanent facial nerve damage. So now, as of that date, I have 0 tear production in my right eye. So it's very interesting. If I'm crying, there's only tears on the left side, the right side completely dry. Also, I forget the technical name for when your eyelid doesn't completely close. So I had a gold eyelid weight strip implanted to help with that, because having been dealing with eye issues and vision issues since I was 10 years old, I understood very early how important corneal function is. So started again casting around for other things and discovered that the Refresh Plus, just like Catherine said, lasts for about the minute that you're dripping it in the eye. So started looking for other things. The only thing I found for me that's helpful is I use the Refresh Celluvisc from the moment I wake up in the morning until I go to bed. And just before bedtime, I've started using Bausch & Lomb's Soothe, also a preservative-free. I bought goggles from your foundation, and that helps a lot as well. It's a daily struggle. Like today, I live in a place that doesn't have air conditioning, so I have a fan. And the fan dries out. So I'm sitting here with my sunglasses on in the dark, almost in the dark, because that keeps the airflow from drying me out. And nothing's going to fix my problem. So I have just learned to live with it, and I always have a good supply. Anytime I leave the house, have a good supply of vials in my purse. I have a little timer set on my phone, and most of the time, 30 minutes. Every once in a while, I can go 45. As soon as I go past the comfort zone, I get a lot of scleral hemorrhaging, and then eventually, if I don't deal with it, my eyeball itself starts to hurt. And this is all just fallout from the facial nerve damage. And I I totally, when I found your foundation and your website, so incredibly helpful to understand that there are so many different reasons for having the dry eye. And I was seeing a neuro-ophthalmologist for a while, and he wanted me to try Restasis. That was disaster. And then I tried, what's the other newer one? Zydra, same problem. So tried a couple of vials, said, no, thank you. I'll just continue to use what, works for me. So I'm always looking for something else to try. I would love to not have to do this, to put in artificial tears every 30 minutes, because a lot of my friends back before pandemic, when I was face to face with friends and classmates, found it very disconcerting. Why are you doing that? What's wrong with you? It's like, hey, this is how my life is. I find that the more I hydrate, the less problematic. Anytime I dabble in salty food, major dryness. I'm very fortunate, no medications that cause dry eye. And boy, there is a huge list of medications that one of the top 3 side effects is dry eye. And so that's kind of my story.
Wow, thank you
Thanks
for
for
listening.
listening.
There's a lot in there and a lot in
very,
your
very
story.
long journey. And the tumors that I have in my head, it's a 20-year, well, I'm into my 21st year now. Luckily, I call them non-cancerous. Technically, they're known as benign, but all of the damage I have incurred as a result of them is not what I consider benign. So I just describe them as non-cancerous tumors.
That is a better term, isn't it?
Well, for me,
Benign and not always. Yeah.
it's a little more actual description, because a lot of times when people hear the word benign, they go, oh, not cancer, no problem. Well, for me,
No problem.
no cancer, but problems, a whole cascade.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing the story, Phyllis. There's a lot in there. And one of the things that was interesting to me is you're clearly really well attuned to the things that tend to spike or flare your symptoms. And you've got kind of your exact path for what seems to keep things under reasonable control. That's great. So we're going to move on. Sure.
We've actually got someone else. Should we, Adam, I think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. One more. I'm probably going to ask you to keep the story a little truncated, and then we'll move into our questions. Marla, hi. Marla, you with us? Can you unmute yourself?
Sorry, that would help, wouldn't it? So sorry. I'm Marla. I'm from Chicago, and I have a quick question. I've had dry eye for about 15 years. Tried everything under the sun, seen every eye doctor in Chicago. My biggest problem is extreme watering of my eyes, to the point that sometimes the water just pours out of them for hours at a time, no matter what I put in my eyes to try to control it. Is this something that other people find is a problem, or am I unique in this?
I know lots of people personally that's happened to, for sure. I don't know if anybody in our group has experienced that, but I mean, and that can be related to dry eye in terms of just irritation from the dryness, triggering lots of reflex tearing.
Exactly.
Or it can have other causes too. Sounds like you haven't had a lot of luck getting people to help with that. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct. The other thing is, I think Phyllis mentioned Restasis and Zydra. I have been on Restasis for probably 15 years. And every time I say to them, it's not working, nothing's helping, why don't I just go off of it? Oh, you don't want to do that because after 3 months, it's going to be worse than it is now. So has anybody had an experience with that?
I've tried both Restasis and whatever the other one is with an
Zythra?
R, and have found neither one of them at all helpful. And
Mm,
so I stopped using either one of them because
yeah,
it wasn't that it got worse after 3 months. It just never got better after 3 months either.
yeah, I hear
This
you.
is
Okay.
And
difficult.
I asked my ophthalmologist, I said, what's been your patient's experience with these two drugs? And she said, for some people, it's great. It really helps them. And for others like you, it makes no difference at
No
all.
difference at all.
So I
Yeah.
think that's not uncommon.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
It's a difficult question just because on the medical side, there's so many different possible scenarios. I think there's situations where for some people it becomes an important part of just keeping inflammation under control. But for others, I mean, if I had a dime for everyone who's told me, well, I've been on Restasis for years, I have no idea whether it's helping, but I'm afraid to stop. That's I think a commonplace that people do. And you just, I don't know what the answer is other than really expert advice about whether there's evidence for you that it's clinically making a difference, even if today it doesn't seem to be improving symptoms and things.
No.
Okay, so we're heading towards 3:30 now. I'm just going to go ahead and jump into our topic, if you don't mind. So we're all about causes of dry eye today. Why are we dry? And I think some of us have strong opinions about why we have dry eye. Some don't have any idea because it seems to come out of the blue. I think it's a huge, huge and complicated topic, partly because dry eye is not a single thing. It's not like a disease where you can say, here's what it's all about. It's a bucket of so many different things, from reduced tear production to lids not closing, like one of you mentioned, to so many types of things. And when we talk about the causes, there's a lot of different levels at which we can talk about them. There's like, what started it? Some of us had dry eye start quite suddenly. What was it that kicked it off? There's, we can talk about it as what sorts of things make our symptoms worse, environmental things or things that we do. There we can talk about it as in terms of diseases. There's a lot of systemic diseases and some eye diseases associated with dry eye. There's anatomical causes, with eyelids especially, or with the tear drains. There we can talk about it at kind of the big picture level as a society. Where are we going? Why do we have so much dry eye now? The kind of lifestyle and environmental trends. Computer use obviously is huge. Office air, there have been lots of studies about how that affects our eyes. Just dietary considerations, and then drugs and surgeries. There's so many different ones that have dry eye as a side effect. I don't know that it's ever necessarily accurate to say, well, this thing exactly caused my dry eye. I'm sure there's probably some cases where it is, but I just want to share kind of how I relate to causation. I feel like most of us, when I hear people's stories, I feel like most of us have this whole collection of things. Some of them maybe we could describe them as causes. Some of them are contributing factors. Some of them are triggers. Some of them are risk factors. And I'd like to get in and try to identify those individual things because I think it's empowering. There are things that we can't do anything about, things that we can't change. I can't change the fact that I'm female and 51, therefore I'm at higher risk of dry eye, but there are many other things that we can change, that we do have some control over. About 5 years ago, I had the honor of participating in the TFOS DUES 2 project. That's this big international medical consensus thing where they were basically updating the dry eye Bible, or what does science know about dry eye today? So an update that they published in 2017, updating their original report in 2007. Anyway,
It's a great report.
It's amazing. And I was on just the education and awareness committee, but as part of that, they sent each of us off to serve with one other team that was making a report. And they sent me to work with the epidemiology team. And they were working on identifying what are the things that cause dry eye? What are the risk factors for dry eye? Basically, who gets dry eye and why? And so I spent a whole day with them. And one of the things I really liked was that they broke down, they were going through 10 years of research and pulling things together. And they broke it down between modifiable things and non-modifiable things. And again, I just really like that way of relating to it, because we need things that give us a sense of some control, some things that we can change. It puts us in the driver's seat. So moving on to our questions, you know what I would like to start with is just to go around and share different causes of dry eye, because I bet you we can assemble a pretty long list, even just amongst ourselves, of all the things that you've already mentioned. Maybe Aiden, you could take some notes on this. Mandy, why don't you start? What's a dry eye cause that you know about? Cause or
well,
factor?
You mentioned, sorry, go ahead, what?
Cause, contributing factor, a trigger, or anything that can make somebody experience dry eye?
Well, I think you mentioned some of the environmental factors today, and I don't know how many people realize, people on this call probably realize it, but the increase in computer use and staring at our phones and our computers, and that really it's been proven that people don't blink nearly as much when they're doing those things. And so even if you maybe don't have dry eye per se, if you blink, there's a bee right by my head. If you blink normally, but with the lack of blinking, your eyes become dry because you're not spreading that oil layer over to keep the tear layer in. So is that right? Am I scientifically right on that?
Absolutely. It's about trying to prevent evaporation. You get more evaporation. Yep.
Yeah. So when you blink, you're expressing the oils in those glands if they will express properly. But I think so for people who have normal functioning eyes and aren't blinking, it's going to increase your dryness.
Yeah, and it's about secreting those oils, but also just about, if you think about what your lids are doing, they're covering your eyes. And when your eyes are closed, the tears are not evaporating because there's a cover over them. The more you blink, the more time your eyes and your tear layer stays under cover. So just that physical barrier. Okay, great. So we got computer use. Catherine, what's another dry eye cause or factor?
For me, computer use is probably way up there near the top. I mean, I didn't realize it as it was happening, but now 45 years of computer or whatever of computer use later, that is undoubtedly a major cause.
Phyllis, you want to throw in another cause? One of yours, or
yeah, probably. I noticed that until the surgical problem, the biggest trigger for me was having LASIK after my cataract surgeries. It was like, wow, is there something wrong with my eyes? And, went back to the eye surgeon, and no, this is a very natural side effect. And, I got my first big array of new artificial tears. But as I said, I had worn contact lenses for 43 years, and I always wore a hard lens. So that was just a natural part of causing corneal dryness. And now I have surgical damage.
I was wondering about the LASIK aspect when you were sharing your story, because
yeah, that was just another step along the journey. But it was, for me, getting rid of the cataracts, and for the first time since I was a small kid, having immaculately perfect vision with no contact lenses, no glasses, no readers anymore was such an amazing thing that I kind of looked at it as the dryness was a very small price to pay for everything that I gained.
And I think for a lot of people that can be the case. There's been others of us that have had pain syndromes and things after it where the balance doesn't work out quite that way. It just varies a lot from person to person. Marla, can you share dry eye cause?
For me, since my eyes have been watering almost continually since last September, it'll be almost a year. Everything and anything causes it. A change in temperature, going outside from indoors, coming indoors from outdoors. In the wintertime, trying to take a walk with water pouring down my eyes outside. I do not know what triggers mine. Everything seems to. Literally everything.
So environmental change of any kind.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I've worn hard lenses for probably 25 years. Now I do either lenses or glasses, but I don't see a difference. I water either way. And it's just the most frustrating thing I've gone through in my life. And I think I wanted to get on this website and get some info to find out if there's any cure, but apparently that's not the case.
It depends. Everybody is their own unique puzzle. And yeah, I do believe solutions do come. You know, I'm just pulling up, I've got a copy in front of me of the kind of summary page from the epidemiology report on DUCE to the table that they have. I'm just going to share some of these just for food for thought. Again, this is looking at dry eye statistically in terms of what statistically seems to put people at higher risk for some form of dry eye. And the ones they have on their most consistent list, aging, female sex, Asian race, meibomian gland dysfunction, connective tissue diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and lupus, Sjogren's syndrome. That's on the kind of ones that are not modifiable. Then they have several others, androgen deficiency, computer use, contact lens wear, hormone replacement therapy, hematopoietic, or however you pronounce that, stem cell transplantation, environmental factors like we've just talked about, pollution, low humidity, and sick building syndrome, and then several medications, antihistamines, antidepressants, anxiolytics, and isotretinoin. Anyway, those are, it's always interesting to me what our experience is kind of in the real world versus what they're saying statistically about things. But they do have computer use and history of contact lens wear as way up there on the chart. Mandy, want to share more causes?
So you briefly mentioned in going through this some of the autoimmune diseases, which some of my doctors think is one of my causes of this. However, I've had many tests done and nothing seems to show up. I had a recent discussion with a neurologist who ordered some more blood work, but due to COVID, I haven't gone in to get that yet. I mean, he ordered it months ago. I can go in, I just choose not to at this point because it's been 23 years and I haven't known. I can wait until there's a vaccine, maybe. But so autoimmune diseases, there's a lot of them out there and they contribute to dry eye.
Autoimmune is big. I think especially for the severe forms of dry eye, that's like a huge cause. I mean, Sjogren's syndrome is supposed to account for, I think, 4 million or more in the US. Another thing I just pulled up is the list, again, from the TFOS DUCE 2 report. This time around, they did a separate report specifically on medically induced dry eye. So medical treatments that cause dry eye or put people at higher risk of dry eye or make their risk level worse. And I think several of these have already come up. I mean, potentially drugs that cause or contribute to dry eye, LASIK, cataract surgery. I mean, transplants even. Just going to read a few things off the list just as food for thought. Systemic drugs, and there's a long list of those. I think it's something like 28 out of the top 100 best-selling drugs, systemic drugs in the US cause or contribute to dry eye. I mean, that's 1 in 4. So it's worth sometimes checking the labeling on them. Topical drugs. So I think there were 15 different categories of eye drops that cause or contribute to dry eye. A lot of that is based on the preservatives in them. Contact lens induced dry eye. Then eye surgeries, and they list here refractive surgeries. So that's the LASIK and PRK and all that. Then transplants, cataract surgery, eyelid surgeries. So those can be the medically necessary ones like ptosis surgery or cosmetic eyelid surgeries. I hear from a lot of people whose lids don't close fully after eyelid surgeries and they get pretty bad dry eye.
Rebecca,
Yeah.
sorry, can I say one thing about the medication list? Because I definitely take medications that can increase dry eye. However, I haven't found any difference in my dry eye on them or off of them. Maybe it's because mine is so extreme in that I don't produce many tears as it is. So any dry eye contributing factor may not make it any worse. It just may be that it causes it as a side effect. And I think some people get deterred from taking certain medications that may really help with your mental health and other issues that may be associated or a side effect of dry eyes. So the side effect of the drug might outweigh the side effect of your dry eye because it will help you to function through the day. I mean, I am on antidepressant or anti-anxiety med, and I'm also on lots of meds, but I'm on a med that is originally for bipolar, but it also helps anxiety. And then I'm on a med for nerve control because I have some trigeminal nerve damage on one side of my eye. And many of them have dry eye as a potential side effect, but I think the benefits of them outweigh the negatives. So I just wanted to say that about the medications.
That's such an incredibly important point. I mean, none of this stuff is black and white. And even if you know that it is a risk factor, it's just a risk factor. It's a potential thing. We don't know that it will play out that way for any one individual. And even if it does, like I said, you have to weigh the risks and benefits of everything and take them on balance. I think of it in terms of we are much more than our eyeballs. And it's a question of more broadly, what is going to improve my quality of life most, and make decisions based on those balances. Absolutely. And it's sometimes a little confusing to have so many drugs say that they can cause dry eye. Like I said, it doesn't mean that they will. It means that the potential is there. And it's just helpful to have it in the background as knowledge that that may be a factor or it may not. But it can lead people sometimes to just be aware and to explore some alternatives in cases where that's a possibility. Let's see, there were a few more on that list I wanted to run down. Oh yeah, there were some other eye surgeries that can play into dry eye, but there's also non-surgical stuff that's done. There's cosmetic procedures and even Botox that for some people can be part of the problem. Anyway, so moving on, I would like to know what any of you think about the extent to which dry eye is getting more common and reasons for that. Phyllis, you mentioned what this was like back in 1963 as a very different world now. Do you want to comment more on that and just how you've seen things change in terms of how people see dry eye and how commonly known it is? Phyllis, looks like you may need to unmute yourself. maybe we lost Phyllis.
I do have one comment on this from the historical perspective. I was listening to the books, The Splendid and the Vile by Eric Larson, because I do all audiobooks because of my eyes. So I highly recommend audiobooks. I took a screenshot, I'm just pulling it up right now, of what it said. So Churchill had offered this person a job, Lord Beaverbrook. I can't remember which position, I think something with aircraft, because it was during World War II. So he was trying to plan for a lot of the bombers and aircraft and fighters. But it said that his health was plagued by eye troubles and asthma, so much so that he devoted a room in his London mansion to asthma treatments and filled it with kettles to produce steam. So that was in 1940. And I just immediately thought, oh, he had dry eyes. And so how far technology has come and the medical recognition of dry eye, I think it's come an incredibly long way. I don't know if that means it's more common or just that people have been, there's more people in the world and they've been going to the doctor and the doctors are like, oh, this is called dry eye. We have a name for it now. And I mean, I do think computer use and some environmental factors have contributed, but it definitely was a thing.
I think one of the organizations out there, is TFOS or somebody, refers sometimes to even there were mentions of it in ancient Greece. They used like animal fat on their eyes or things to lubricate them when there was dry eye. Aiden, do you want to add anything to our cause list?
Oh, I was thinking, someone said something about nighttime dry eye, just non-closing eyelids, leaky CPAP, something like that, CPAP air. And then Linda also said Sjogren's, which we discussed, and hyperthyroid. Those were some of the comments that came in.
Oh, the hyperthyroidism. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, it's not super common, but again, affecting the lids, lid closure with the eyes bulging. Let's talk about triggers and some of the things that just cause people to have bad days. And we've talked a lot already about just kind of environmental triggers and computer use and things, but do any of you have things to share about like what you might do that you know is going to make your dry eye trend worse? I've heard of people talking about, if I do this or I eat this today, I'm going to pay for it tomorrow. And I think one of you mentioned, was it you, Catherine, something about, or maybe Phyllis, about eating salty food, noticing it really soon in the dryness.
That's interesting because I don't know if Phyllis, she's muted, because
Yep, I'm here. Go ahead.
I have a sorry, I'll just say this. I have very low blood pressure, so I have been also instructed by my doctor to wear or to drink electrolytes and use extra salt. And so I faint a lot if I don't do that. So it's also another, what is this going to do? Is it going to impact my dry eyes or does my body need this? So anyway, go ahead, Phyllis.
Oh, I was going to say that a definite trigger for me is if I'm doing house cleaning and I am leaned over, I will very often have eyeball pain and my dry eye is much worse. I wind up having to use my Celludisc every 10 or 15 minutes. I also notice if we're having a bad air day, you know, our air quality is particularly bad on any given day, that's an environmental trigger for me. I also switched to organic wine because I was noticing that after every glass of wine, and I try to generally limit myself to one reasonable size every couple of days, that certain wines seem to frequently trigger a more intense episode of dry eye. So started looking around and said, well, I'm pretty much 95% organic person anyway, because I find if I eat conventional produce, that can trigger um, dry eye. And so I switched to an organic red wine, and I'm doing much better.
Wow, interesting. You know,
Rebecca, sorry, can I say one more thing since we're talking about the causes? And one of the things that Rebecca or that Phyllis has said a few times that have made me think of moisture chamber glasses. I don't have mine on right now because the sunglasses would, cover my lovely eyes, which are horrible because of all the pulling I have to do on them. I'm like, I think I have premature wrinkles significantly, but
Yes.
Anyway, I highly recommend, Phyllis, if you don't have them, and to anyone on here who doesn't, to get these glasses. So when I clean, I wear them because I have pet hair everywhere. When I'm looking at a computer all day, I have ones that have clear lenses as well. I wear them all day. I wear these when I'm outside anytime, when I'm biking, when I'm running, when I'm doing anything outside, and also most of the time inside in the winter when we have a fire. I've just gotten used to getting weird looks in public and wearing them because it makes me feel better. And so these are great. These are really great. And no, I'm not a spokesman for them.
Amanda, what's the name?
It's Wiley X that I like just because they fit my face better. Seven Eye also has some. So, Rebecca, do you know of any other companies that are big in the area?
those are the main ones. Plus Sienna. I mean, Sienna glasses are made by Seven Eye.
Seven Eye.
Silicone shields instead of the foam ones. I have both types too, Wiley X and Seven Eye. And I like them both. I mean, for outdoors and for driving, for me, they're a big deal. Also helping with the light sensitivity. But I think, I mean, any kind of moisture chamber glasses or shields like that, that's like a staple for severe dry eye symptoms. Everybody should know about those. I wish more doctors were aware and would tell people who have dry eye about those so they could get to them sooner. The last dry eye happy hour we had a couple of weeks back, a couple of different people showed us their custom moisture chambers that were made with their own glasses, which is a lot of fun too. So those are a big deal. I'll tell you what is one of my big triggers is for just having a worse day is sleep. I don't get enough sleep. My eyes are toast.
I second that.
Next day. And
I'll raise my hand on that one too.
And it's been studied. There's lots of medical studies about what happens to your tear film when you don't get enough sleep. And of course, just getting enough sleep is something we ought to be doing anyway. But I struggle with this because I'm kind of a night person and a morning person, both. And I just don't get enough sleep at night. And the nights that are particularly short, I guess really if I've worn my lenses for way too many hours and then go straight to bed, sleep for 5 hours and they're not going to be happy the next day. So something I think several of you mentioned also is just hydration. It's such a simple thing. Are we drinking enough water? But yet it does get overlooked a lot. I think the folks with Sjogren's syndrome and things like that tend to be more aware of that and are going everywhere with a water bottle. But I know I definitely played guilty during work. I have this giant thing on my desk, like a water dispenser, just for the visual reminder of how much water I need to be drinking. And it's hard to keep up sometimes. Other triggers that anyone wants to share? Something that causes just a flare up or temporary or longer term. If there's something, maybe,
crying.
Yeah.
My eyelids will I get this huge puffiness along my glands on the upper lid. It will look like it is like I had a huge allergic reaction to something, and then they will feel particularly bad the next day.
Hotel rooms are a big one for me. Of course, it doesn't matter now, I'm not traveling, but they always seem to be overheated or over air conditioned, and they're always hard on my eyes. Seasonality too. I feel like every September or October, I get a lot of calls from people that are panicky because all of a sudden their dry eyes gotten worse, and it's the heat turned on and the air is drier indoors. It's a lot of that. So the more we can do.
And that's a huge place where the moisture chamber glasses come in, because it creates more stable environment of humidity. I should become a spokesperson for them.
Something I've noticed too, when you mentioned hotel rooms, I used to travel a lot, and when I go into a hotel room and there was that really strong fragrance from either the carpet shampoo or linens and things like that, sometimes that could trigger for me the again, the environmental chemical could definitely trigger for me.
Phyllis, you hit on a major one for me. I cannot handle any scented stuff anymore, to the point where I've had to ask coworkers to stop using like Bath and Body Works hand lotion, and I feel horrible about it, but I don't know. I mean, people are allergic to that stuff too, but it significantly impacts my eyes. I don't use anything with fragrance anymore. And I go to my parents' house and every soap dish is fragranced, and they have little fragrance things blowing. And I'm just like, please don't while I'm here. And they don't get it. They don't understand. But anyway, fragrance.
No,
yeah.
I definitely, because I have a number of friends who are what they call chemically sensitive, soap, perfume, air freshener, any of those kinds of things. When people use these really strong fragrance dryer sheets and their clothing, it's nice smelling, but it can definitely trigger my eye to start being very unhappy.
I knew a guy for years who had dry eye after LASIK, and he worked in a Social Security office. So he was dealing with the public all the time. And any kind of fragrance, a cologne or perfume, was just deathly for him. He just couldn't handle it. For years, he wore swim goggles at work because it was the only way he could sufficiently control that. Because he had tried like moisture chamber glasses and things. He couldn't get anything to seal close enough. Sometimes we just do what we gotta do. Grocery stores, for me, that's where I put on my 7-eye glasses too. I can't walk down like the aisle where the bleach and things like that are without some protection, because I just start feeling it immediately. And of course, stores like that, you've also got the fluorescent lighting and just air blowing around, so they're kind of rough on the eyes. Circling back to computer use, anybody want to share your strategies for being able to stretch out your computer use more comfortably? Other than moisture chambers, which I think
I was going to say moisture chambers.
Number one. Absolutely a given. Yeah.
Staying away from ventilation, closing the vents near you, not having a fan on you, maybe using a humidifier.
For me, the level that I'm looking at the computer on matters a lot. Trying to look down to have the screen. It's hard because my vision's kind of cruddy, so I use a giant screen, and it's hard to keep that screen low enough to look down on, but to try and keep the things that I'm staring at positioned low on the screen makes a difference. I'm also just right now testing out a couple of different apps that remind you to blink more on the computer. And they've been kind of fun. One of them is actually really cool. It uses your camera to watch your eyes and analyze how frequently you're blinking.
What is that? Which one?
It's called iBlink.
Okay.
There's a website called blinkingmatters.com.
Okay.
And it was such a pain to try to install and things because it's a little bit more PC friendly than Mac friendly. But once I got it up, I was hooked. I love it because every now and then it pops up this thing telling me, well, you're blinking 11 times per minute or however often, and then just pops up reminders to blink more. And you can program it to tell you to, get up every now and then or look off into the distance or whatever. There's a couple of other ones out there, but I really like the idea of it using the camera to analyze what you're actually doing and respond to it.
I have just trained myself because my eyes operate independently now since the surgical damage. When I blink, my good eye blinks, but my damaged eye does not blink. So I have to think, blink, blink, blink. So I have just kind of trained myself to, be more mindful of that. And also, when I'm sitting and using my computer, I try to make sure, I don't sit for more than 30 minutes at a stretch before I get up, walk around, do some stretches, all of those things, because now that we're all home all the time, sometimes I find when I'm driving a lot, my dry eye will be more problematic.
Moisture chamber.
I don't know. Yeah, that's definitely something I need to look into. Rebecca, could I ask a quick question? I think I either read or heard or saw that you wear a scleral lens.
Yeah.
And is that for vision or is that because of the dry eye or something else?
It's kind of both plus. I mean, I think that the reason I ended up with scleral lenses started with vision because my vision's not correctable with glasses. I can only see properly with hard lenses, but my corneas are too sensitive and too dry to tolerate any hard lenses. So scleral lenses are my way of getting vision because they hold the fluid over the corneas, but they're also my way to just have my eyes more comfortable. I mean, I would be very, very uncomfortable without them. I wear them pretty much all my waking hours. So I have kind of a combination of vision issues, dry eye, and actually some neuropathic pain from LASIK. So for me, scleral lenses have been a great solution to all three.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. When I was young, very young, the optician that I went to for my first pair of corrected lenses at age 10, he had these things in his shop and I went, what are those? And he goes, oh, those are scleral lenses because that was pre-cornea contact lenses. And I just thought that those were the scariest looking things I had ever seen. And then when I started having dry eye and somebody said, oh, you ought to look into having a scleral lens, it took me back 60 years ago. And I was like, oh no, I don't think so.
Oh my
But
God.
now I've gotten over the fear factor. And when I go see my neuro-ophthalmologist sometime before the end of this year, I may ask her for her opinion if she thinks that would be something that's beneficial for me.
They used to make them out of glass. I mean,
oh yeah, the optician that I went to, because this was in 1960 when I got my first pair of corrective glasses, and he showed me what he had worn, and they were made of glass.
There's a medical conference about contact lenses, specialty contact lenses, that goes on every year in Las Vegas in January. And the last couple of years, it's just been almost all dominated by scleral lenses. And in some of the presentations, they show videos from the 40s and 50s with some of these ancient scleral lenses, and it's just terrifying. They had this one where this woman is just like, looks like a model, is smiling, and she's putting in this glass lens with no fluid, no nothing. And you just gotta know it's miserable and painful, but somehow she's smiling for the camera. Thankfully, they are much better these days, because those ones would basically starve your eyes of oxygen in no time flat. But they have really good technologies to get them really comfortable now. Just unfortunately, not something that works out for everyone. I know Mandy's been there and done that, and they did not work out for her, unfortunately.
I can just say that I don't want to discourage people from trying. And I think ultimately the reason why mine didn't work, although sometimes the right eye didn't feel too great, it was generally a problem with the left eye. And that's where I have some nerve damage. So even though I'm taking gabapentin now, which has been helping a lot with the nerve damage, I still just don't want to try sclerals. It was too annoying. I also feel like I was maybe damaging and stretching the outer layer of the skin or the eye. Why can't the conjunctiva? What is so? I notice more like wrinkling in that now, and I just don't want to try it and the reason why I notice more is because this is what I think. I was taking them in and putting them out so many times a day to try to get comfort. And I tried for like a year to do that. So, it's just not worth it.
Rebecca, are you and Amanda both saying that how your scleral lenses are fitted by your practitioner is ultimately whether you're going to be successful at wearing?
Fitting is huge. And for me, I'm saying that I don't think it was the fit. I do think my practitioner has got the fit right. I think it was just that I sensed it more because of the nerve damage.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
There's a lot of factors that go into whether it will or won't work for someone. I mean, for me, size of the lens is key, but also, I've only ever been successful in some of the highly customizable lens types, and they also have to be a certain diameter. There's a lot of scleral lenses that are like 15 or 16 millimeters that are being fitted. I could never wear one of them. I've never worn anything under 18 millimeters. That's just, for me. For others, the solutions that are used in the lenses can be the make it or break it. There's just a lot of nuance to scleral lenses. I was just looking belatedly at some of the chat notes and wanted to circle back for a second to driving and moisture chambers with driving. We were talking before about brands of some of these glasses. With driving, for me, the big thing is heat and air conditioning just bother my eyes so much. Even I have the upper vents always turned off, but even so, the lower ones, it just bothers my eyes too much. So I tend to use the Wiley X glasses just because they have a frame style or two that kind of wraps more, and I don't want my side vision cut off too much. That's a safety thing in driving. Probably a lot of these glasses will say you shouldn't even be driving with them. So you have to sometimes hunt for the right ones. And the Sienna glasses, SiennaEyewear.com can, for some people, be a better way to go for the driving too, just because the shields are translucent rather than that black foam, just to let in kind of a little more side vision awareness. There is for everyone. We're going to wrap up pretty shortly here, but I'd like to ask if anybody would like to share any prevention advice, any advice you would give your younger self about either preventing or keeping things under better control.
For me and my younger self, I mean like 6 months, is I messed with my eyes so much. I touched them all the time. I would try to express my glands myself. And I probably did way more harm than good by doing that in the past. Maybe since the pandemic started or shortly thereafter, just from being home all the time, my anxiety, if I do something where I think I'm controlling something, I feel better. But I think that really just not trying too many things at once, not messing with your own eyes, letting a doctor, maybe finding a doctor that I don't have to educate on dry eye would be a better option for me. I still haven't found that person in Madison. So if anyone on this call is near me and has a great ophthalmologist, I would love to hear about that. So those are some of the things. I think educate yourself as well. That's not advice I'd give my younger self. I read all the time on it, which maybe was more bad than good, but it led me to Rebecca and the dry eye shop, Zone Foundation, and everything. So that was a positive. I'll stop talking.
A positive for us that you are here. Mandy, I don't remember if this came up earlier. Mandy serves on the board of the Dry Eye Foundation, and it's just a powerhouse of enthusiasm. It's really cool. Any others about prevention? Any thoughts?
Yeah, Phyllis here. I would say that staying away from preservatives in your whatever you put in your eye, being extremely careful. I had to give up wearing eye makeup, which was really tough for me because I started wearing eye makeup when I was very young. And so staying away from preservatives in any eye solution that you put in your eye. What else? Staying away from things like Visine, because then you would get the rebound effect where it would make the scleral hemorrhaging, it would improve for a minute or two, and then it would get really bad. Same thing if I tried using something like Visine back in the day for dryness. Kind of like the antihistamine rebound. And antihistamines are so drying in and of themselves that I have talked to a number of people who have seasonal allergies, and they immediately start struggling with dry eye because the medications that they're taking to control the allergic response front and center dry eye.
Antihistamines are terribly drying, but yet then we come back to kind of Mandy's point on just balancing the different needs. And you fix one problem, you may be causing or worsening another problem, figuring out what you need most. I think with allergy too, it gets complicated with dry eye because there's ocular allergy, and sometimes it's hard to even draw the line between whether you're having symptoms more from dryness or more from ocular allergy. What do you treat first? It gets complicated. And I think having a good eye doctor weigh in on how to navigate it is helpful too. I love your advice about the preservatives. And I think that preservatives lurk in a lot of places that we're not necessarily looking for them. Any over-the-counter allergy drops you get at the drugstore, those all have benzalkonium chloride, which is the bad guy in the preservatives in eye drops world. Even the new supposedly much safer redness reliever drop, Lumify, has benzalkonium chloride in it. And you were talking about makeup as well, cosmetics. Here in the US, there's an awful lot of stuff that they're not even required to put on the labeling about what ingredients are in them and in what concentrations and things. So I think for a lot of us, just keeping away from eye makeup has been
Rebecca, sorry, I have to second that. And Phyllis, it was really hard for me to give up eye makeup as well. I hardly ever wear any makeup. I had to really work hard to find special sunscreen, because sunscreen's important, but I put it on in the summer and I avoid like where my moisture chambers go so that I can try not to get it in my eye. But oh man, I loved eye makeup beyond belief, but I really think it's an important thing to stop doing and trying, because it just makes the day worse. I wear it like 3 times a year now, and those nights, like Halloween is one of the big nights I put a lot of makeup on because I love Halloween, but it's always miserable, always miserable. So if people are still wearing makeup, maybe try not. And it's really hard to get over the vanity aspect of it, but now I wear the moisture chambers, and it actually has made life easier about not caring about that stuff. So anyway.
Thank you.
I was just remembering, Mandy, an event I was at some months ago, actually just before coronavirus and the shutdowns and everything, where they were talking a lot about, it was a medical conference sort of thing, and they were talking a lot about eye makeup and all the different ways in which it's bad for our eyes. And the presenters were very heavily made up and made no bones about the fact that they just loved it. And they were like, yep, I'm addicted to tight lining and I don't care what it does to my eyes. This is what I'm going to do. So they too were kind of about balancing what their eyes need versus lifestyle. But yeah, that's kind of where when you're in enough discomfort, there are things you just have to let go of to be able to get it under control. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here. We've got obviously a lot of different things that can cause or contribute to or flare up or trigger dryness, but I've really enjoyed the discussions of all of the different parts of that we have some control over, the things that we get to do to make it better. We can't control our demographics. Particularly, we can't control any of the things that have happened to our eyes in the past, but going forward, there's a lot that we can do to control things, especially the environmental type controls, like Mandy, you're talking about with the moisture chamber glasses. Any last thoughts anybody wants to share?
I have a couple of things that have come up in the chat, just advice from people to their younger selves. Yeah. From Melody, she said cutting out processed foods and sugar because they cause inflammation. And then Linda was saying she wished she had seen an endocrinologist about Graves' disease.
Endocrinologist, yep. Those are great additions. Thank you. All right. In 2 weeks, August 28th, is that where we're at? Our next Dry Eye Happy Hour is going to be all about the mental health impact of dry eye, which is a really big deal. If any of you listening or watching are interested in participating in that or would like to just kind of flag some questions or thoughts or send any ideas my way before then, please reach out. You can reach us anytime at info@dryeyefoundation.org, or even just give us a call. It's 800-484-0244. Go to dryeyefoundation.org and get in touch. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, I have one more thing, because Rebecca will never do this. If you feel like doing it, please donate to the Dry Eye Foundation. Rebecca spends endless hours. I can tell you, she doesn't sleep much because she's working so hard. And she is amazing and provides so many resources for us. And I think honestly does it out of the goodness of her heart, and definitely not for the money, but we need money. I mean, we need to be able to continue providing these services and provide even more services. So I'm just going to do the pitch.
Thank you. As you said, I never will remember to or do it. If you do want to donate, dryeyefoundation.org, there's a donate button on there. And like Mandy said, there's also Amazon Smile. All right. Thanks, everybody. And hope to see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. I do have a couple things here. I'll just answer, maybe Rebecca, you can help, from Susan, talking about Lotemax and flare-ups. Given that it's not good to be on steroid drops? These are in the question and answer.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I just forget about that part. Like I said, I'm still a rookie at all this. So my eye doc gave me Lotemax to use for flare-ups. How often should I use them in view of the fact that it's not good to be on steroid eye drops for long? Wow. How often, as in how often to take them for a little while, or how many times a day? I'm not quite sure. But the thing with steroids is really, if it's a question of the risk of increasing your intraocular pressure, they should be monitoring that. You don't want to take and I would, if they haven't given you specific guidance on how long you can take them at a time without being seen, I would actually call their office before using them at all and say, how long can I be on these? Like if I'm taking it, whatever the dosage says, however frequently in a day, how many days or weeks can I be doing that before somebody examines me? The other thing to keep in mind about Lotemax and just about any corticosteroid is the preservative in them. Again, sometimes we can be improving things with one part of it and making things worse with another. And some people are more sensitive to the preservatives than others. Let's see, was there another one, Aiden?
Yeah, where to buy moisture chamber glasses if you live in Canada.
Okay. There was I believe, let me just look it up real quick. 7 Eye, I thought, had
I have a locator, a vendor locator.
Dealer up there, and for a long time I thought they had somebody in like Winnipeg or somewhere. Wiley X has dealers everywhere, so if you on wileyx.com you can use their locator to find them. They've got
I have a comment on that because I experienced this when I was looking for my Wileys. There are a lot of retailers listed, but then you'll call the retailer and they never really have filled a prescription with the Wileys. And so if there's usually some sort of mark next to the retailers that have recently filled a prescription on those. So I recommend contacting those first, or maybe calling Wiley and seeing who has actually fitted them and recently. But if you don't need a prescription, you can get them anywhere. Not anywhere, but anywhere listed.
It's such a good point. There's an awful lot of dealers listed, but they may not stock the ones that you want either. So, going through the website, finding a style that you're interested in, think is likely to fit you, and then calling and asking for those specific ones before you go all the way there can be helpful too. But sometimes also just trying on all the different things that they have there. All right, there was another. I was going to say, just giving I don't speak on their behalf, but just giving a pitch for one of my favorites. There's a website called heavyglare.com, and they've been a mainstay for making complex prescription moisture chamber glasses for people for a long time. Again, not a solution for everyone, but some people struggle to get moisture chamber glasses because they've got a really high prescription, and the dealer or their local optician maybe isn't able to put a high prescription in the frame that they want. But that resource, heavyglare.com, they kind of know the outside limits and have worked with these for a long time.
There are specific Wileys that offer an RX adapter, it's called, and that I need that. I mean, my prescription isn't horrible, but it's beyond what the normal wrap can do because they do wrap. So mine have this little, I don't know if you can see it. I'm getting in the right camera. So this part, that part is the adapter. I need it. So if your prescription is too high, they can also do this to make it flatter. So
7 Eye have a high RX adapter on a couple of their frame styles, I think, as well. There are opticians out there that make custom moisture chambers for people, and those that have the really high prescriptions, that's pretty much the only option, because all of these wraparounds do have some kind of outer limits on what kind of prescription that they can accommodate. But I think the Facebook groups tend to be a good source of information on where you can find somebody that makes the custom ones. There's somebody out on Long Island that's made them for forever. I know they make them down at Bascom Palmer in Florida. A couple people in our sessions 2 weeks ago mentioned that their opticians make them as well. All right. Are we really done this time?
I think so.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, sorry, I have one question. Did you get the basic? I just went to Blinking Matters, and there's the basic features or the premium features.
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. Let me take a look.
Basic is free, premium you have to pay after the trial.
I paid.
Okay.
And, you get a license thing to plug in, and it threw me off initially. So anybody that's on a Mac, be forewarned, it's in like teeny tiny print. I couldn't read a thing, and the default language was Slovakian or something. So just finding my way to the control to get it into English and changing the settings was challenging. But once I got there, like I said, I loved it. Yeah. I'm hopeful that with the world changing as much as it is right now, where basically everyone's been working from home and it's putting a lot of stress on everyone's eyes, I'm hoping that there will be a trend towards developing better technologies like these and just putting more options out there that will make all this screen use more eye friendly. All right, Aiden.
All right. Bye, everyone. I'll turn it off now.
Hey,
Thanks.
bye. See you next time.
I'll stop talking.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.